everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here again today as we get to talk about one of my most favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Follow me on social media. I have links in the description below. I also have links to the two issues we're going to cover today. We're going to be looking at Iron Man 191 and 192. Now, we have been documenting some of the issues, not all. We haven't been going exactly through this series, in which Rhodey becomes Iron Man and Tony Stark relapses into alcoholism. Now we are going to look at Tony Stark returning, sort of, to be Iron Man. So, in the description below, I have links to the Marvel wiki slash database. You can see everything that's been leading up to this. So I'm not really looking at like doing the entire thing. Basically, Stain has completely destroyed Tony Stark, and he has been slowly rebuilding his life. And he gave up being Iron Man, and Rhodey became Iron Man. So, it is written by Denny O'Neil. The art is done by a guy that, after this, I don't think I ever saw him. Really cool cover. So we'll kind of look at it again. I love this old school logo. I truly do. You can still find these issues dirt cheap online, or even in your comic book store. So, we start out by Rhodey, who is the one inside Iron Man right now, destroying some trees. He has been a little bit of a jerk, mostly because Tony's sort of back, and he knows that they're going to, he's probably going to end up being Iron Man. So they asked him why he did it. He says, well, it was they were blocking the sunlight. So you can see Tony's not exactly amused. So oh, I forgot his name. I'm sorry. Haven't read these in a while. I think it's Morley Irwin. So anyway, he's like, but they were full grown trees, and Tony takes him and Clymestra, I think is her name, and their brother and sister. And Tony says, it might not be the best time to argue. Rhodey, of course, gets upset at that because they're acting like he's the one that's crazy, and he takes off, and they're like, he's changed, and they don't know what's wrong. They asked him if they know what's going on. He says, I'm not sure what he is now, and he's not sure even what Tony is now. So, yeah, things are changing a bit. So, Tony grabs this new armor that he built. He says he's never putting it on, and they, Irwin here says, why not? He says, well, that armor is part of what made him what he was, and he doesn't want to do that. He says, being Iron Man. They asked him why he built the new armor, and he says, well, technically he built it, but it's the same design as the original one, which is a bit more primitive than what Rhodey has. And he says he put it together from scrap. He wanted to get some design ideas. He's not good at working from paper, and he's just better having the hardware in his hands. And then he also said that they might need it. Rhodey's been cracking up for months, and so he might be on the verge in which something bad might happen. So with that, we're now at the West Coast Avengers compound. He wants to see if he can set up basically a place to live in one of the bungalows. At this time, Hawkeye is the leader of the West Coast Avengers, and he complains about the pain. He says it's a slight muscle cramp. She says she'll give him a massage if he needs one. and he says, "You bet on it." So he doesn't know why he's hurting. He's had himself checked out by the doctors, and that it's not the suit because Tony Stark eliminated that possibility. But then he begins to suspect, did Tony Stark lie to him? You can see some seeds of distrust being sown here. Rhodey, of course, thinks that he wants to be Iron Man again, and he's like, I won't let him. So, uh, in the meantime, we get to this airplane where some police officers or feds or whatever are escorting a villain here by the name of Vibro, who I think was the villain the previous month. And he says that he senses he's home, and you can see he uses the vibrations to get out of the handcuffs and dispatches the two police officers here. And he's making a dash for it. The police get there, and he uses the vibrations to um, basically destroy it. He sees the fence, and then he vibrates himself uh, up so he could jump for it and escapes. So Tony, Cly, and Morley are in the car, kind of talking again about Rhodey. Tony suspects he's at the new Avengers headquarters in the West Coast, and then they see Vibro, who had fought Iron Man, um, either in the last issue or the previous issues before, and they were going to engage him, and Tony says no. There's no way to protect themselves, and Morley says, "Yes, we do. I packed uh, your new armor. It's in the trunk." And Tony's like, "That's where it stays." And Cly is like, "We have to stop him." And Tony says the armor isn't even tested. We don't know how it works, and he's not Iron Man anymore. So they decide they're just gonna follow him. Of course, um, Vibro's wanting to find Iron Man here, and so um, there's that air show, as we had shown in the previous thing, and there is traffic. So they're not going to be able to follow him anymore, so they're going to contact the authorities. And then later, uh, Tony's at the Avengers mansion. He asks Tigra if they can take him to see Iron Man, and of course, he shows up here. Tony says that they want to talk, either all four of them or just him and Rhodey. And Irwin says, "We would have been here sooner if not for Vibro." And of course, Rhodey is like, "What about Vibro?" So, shouldn't even have mentioned it. So, Morley says it's not that they lost him in the crowd, but they called the police. And Rhodey's like, "Cops? You expect the cops to deal with Vibro?" And so he says, "We're gonna talk later," and he's gonna take care of Vibro. Tony's upset because it just was bad timing, and Morley says he should have kept his mouth closed, but Tony tells him not to worry. Tony's concerned because Vibro and Rhodey may end up fighting in the air show. So Morley's also trying to convince Tony to don the new armor, and he tells him, "I am not Iron Man anymore." So, and Rhodey has arrived to where they believed that he was, and he gets in, and at first I thought he smashed the entire barn, because you see this barn here, but he just kind of made a hole through it. So Rhodey thinks Vibro is inside the barn. The farmer tells him no, just him and the cow. And Iron Man doesn't like that. He's like, "I know he's here." He's like, "What do you think you're doing? You're busting up the barn." And who's gonna pay for all this? And he just says, "Send me a bill." And he's um, wondering if the termite, who's another villain, dumb name, but hey. So he gets to that air show, and the cop says, "You gonna help or what?" And they said they noticed a guy in a funny suit sneak into the air show. So he's very happy. So he goes in, and anybody seen a weirdo? And yeah, behind the plane. So he just starts shooting at it, and it was this clown, and he thought he meant Vibro. And he said, "It was, you said a weirdo." So Vibro though does see him behind him and attacks him using his little vibration. Um, it's This is gonna fall into the crowd, and Iron Man does stop it. The cop says, "Hey, can't you take this somewhere else?" And he's like, "And let Vibro get away and make him into a fool." Um, Not in your life, pal. So, you can definitely see him getting more upset, and so Tony and Cly and Irwin um, are listening to it on the radio. Irwin says, "Stop the car," and he's getting out, and he's going to get the armor here. And so Tony asks him what he's doing, and he's gonna put on the armor himself. And Tony's like, "You can't do that. He's, you've never been trained." And he's like, "I'm a fast learner. Maybe I'll get lucky." And Jim is his friend, and he goes, "Mine too." Clyde tells him, "You don't have to," but he says, "Of course I do." And he puts on his new armor, and just like that, Tony Stark is Iron Man once again. So we're gonna go to 192, and I love this cover. One of my favorite Iron Man covers of all time. Just love it. When I saw this issue on the stands, I snapped it up just from that cover. I have been reading Iron Man, but I mean, this cover just boom, loved it. So we go once again with Tony putting the armor on, and of course, here it just says how scared he is. So, and great. I don't know. There's something about the gray suit. Cly is concerned, but nothing she can do at this moment. So, Cly thinks you're gonna get it. You could be getting killed. We should call the National Guard or the Avengers. And Tony says, he's wearing the best armor he's thrown. Nothing anybody can do. So, he can't let Rhodey do that. So, Rhodey is about to go, and she asks if he can remove his arm or his helmet for just a moment here, and she gives him a good kiss for good luck. So, puts his armor back, very solemn look, and off he goes. So, and her brother says, "Are you falling for him?" And she goes, "I don't know. I was just worried, but it could have very well been the last time." So here, Morley says, he hasn't touched alcohol in months, and of course she says alcoholics don't get over being alcoholics; they just stop drinking or die, and that is true. So we're back here, and Iron Man is just leveling everything. People are running scared. Notice how many panels are in each page in the 70s and 80s. So sometimes 2 issues is like a 4-issue story arc, because they're packing sometimes 8, 9, 10 panels in a page. So this one here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels. Eight panels. So there's a lot of stuff that's happened. So or happens. So they really compact it. It's so much different now than the modern comic books where it's a splash page here, and next thing you know, it's a 6 issue series because they don't because they draw so many uh, they don't put as many panels, I guess. So you can see Vibro and Iron Man were fighting, and now that airplane was going to get slammed into all the people, and Tony has gone in to save them. So, and they're going to deal with Vibro, the two of them together, and she sees um, Iron Man getting hit. So Vibro, of course, is causing all that destruction. So Tony grabs him and just keeps pushing him up and up and up and up. Just keeps hitting him with repulsor rays, and he catches him, and he starts to come to again here, and so he's gonna go do it again. Iron Man gets out of the wreckage, and they ask him if he has a partner, and of course he says no. Morley and Clyde come in and ask where's Stark. Morley lies, says, "Oh, he's back at the dome," and she's like, "Don't lie to him." And Rhodey deducts that he's wearing the armor, and he's very upset. He couldn't resist. He just had to hog the glory. So you can see here that he's very upset by it. He says while he was drinking, he's the one, meaning Rhodey, every week, almost every day, that he had to end up being Iron Man. He just wants to be Iron Man, and he doesn't want it basically taken away. Tony arrives, says nobody wants that, says let's talk about what's bothering you. He says, talk all you want, I'm not listening. He puts his hand on him, says Jim, and he hits him. He says, you put your hand on me, and that gives me an excuse. And then you can see here, I love this, how the eyes just to show the anger, and then boom, the punch. Great, even here with the blang, looks like metal. So Morley's like, what should we do? And she's like, there's nothing we can do. Tony pleads with him, and just attacking with the repulsors each, but Jim has the better armor, so he hit him hard that it caused a dent here. So things aren't going very well. So he hears the firefighters arriving, so he decides to run away, and she's like, why aren't you following? Are you afraid? And Morty's like trying to say be quiet, and he says, are you kidding me? Just giving him a head start. And she said that because Tony clearly wanted him to get away from all the people. So off we go. This fight is not over yet. So Tony basically has a plan, but he's gonna need some time here. So he is using like sonic disruptors, and he is going to turn on, activate, he says here, electrification system that's in his glove, and then he goes away, and little things that causes them to, both of them, be like in a positive, and so they repel each other, and so it's a way to keep him from Rhodey hitting him. So he's going to try and confuse him, so he uses like a hologram of all these other Iron Mans, and grabs the little, I guess this is a power pod, is what these little things on the side were, and he realizes he's in a winery full of wine, and he's making some stuff here, and Rhodey's coming through, and he catches him, puts the power pod up, and next thing you know, he falls and says, "What'd you do to me?" He says he damaged a circuit, caused a magnetic beam to lock the outer layer of the armor in place. He says now you can't move. All you can do is basically listen. So Tony says, "I'm not your enemy." And wonders why he's doing this, and he just basically says, "I finally have a chance to be the superhero, and now it's gonna be all gone." Tony, of course, takes his armor off. He says, "I don't want your armor," and undoes the whatever he did there. He says, "Whatever you want to do, do it. I can't stop you." He gets up, and then they shake hands. So ending with a new beginning. So hope you enjoyed it. Iron Man 191 and 192. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.